first human-originated risk we'll discuss is nuclear warfare, which we've already mentioned several times. Although, in recent decades, there has been progress with attempts to reduce the nuclear arsenal of countries, estimates suggest there are still over 12,000 nuclear warheads in the world that are possessed by 9 countries. These weapons have the potential to cause suffering and destruction on an unprecedented scale, and there is a constant fear they will fall into the hands of terrorist organizations or leaders with questionable judgment. Some Cold War estimates suggest that if, God forbid, a full nuclear war were to happen between the US and Russia, the two countries that still hold most of the global nuclear stockpile, hundreds of millions of people would die in the first 30 days of the war. But even launching one nuclear missile could drive enormous harm, killing and debilitating many, causing agricultural failures that lead to food shortages in the targeted region, sending shocks through the world's economy, triggering a huge military retaliation, and potentially catalyzing an ever-escalating nuclear conflict, amongst other terrible outcomes. It's quite unsettling that a single false alarm or a bad call by a leader could cause that. Moreover, during the early days of nuclear weapons, some scientists were deeply concerned that a nuclear explosion might literally ignite the Earth's atmosphere. This has since been scientifically debunked as a possible consequence of detonating atomic bombs, but it highlights the uncertainty inherent to powerful weapons. To this day, the possibility of a different major harm, a nuclear winter, remains a continuous discussion topic. According to some experts, a large-scale nuclear conflict could release enough material into the atmosphere to drastically reduce sunlight and lower global temperatures. This could potentially lead to a catastrophic agricultural collapse far surpassing the direct destruction caused by the bombs. The extent and likelihood of such a nuclear winter are still subjects of active scientific debate, but the potential for this additional indirect form of devastation adds another layer of concern to the already grave implications of nuclear warfare. Another salient source of risk is climate change. The vast majority of scientists agree that the alterations in Earth's climate patterns have already triggered serious consequences worldwide. We are going to spend the entirety of the next lesson on climate change and what could be done about it, so we won't have a full discussion here. Though, very briefly, in the context of GCRs, it's worth mentioning that rising temperatures can cause more frequent and intense natural disasters, problems in food security, and mass refugee crises that could wreak havoc on economies, amongst others. Such events could have a destabilizing effect on society that could indirectly trigger further catastrophes. For example, if a nuclear country is severely affected, it might threaten to use its nukes, which could result in chaotic outcomes. We've recently experienced a pandemic, but it's not the first or worst one in history. For instance, about a century ago, estimates suggest that somewhere between 1% and 6% of the world's population died of the Spanish flu. Pandemics and diseases may seem like a natural phenomenon, but they are one of the examples of risks that are massively influenced by human decisions as well. Novel biological threats could potentially be both likelier and harder to contain compared to the previous century. The world has become more interconnected, has a greater population density, and we have more frequent interactions with nature and animals due to our growing population and commercial activities, including wet markets and deforestation. On the other hand, medical advances allow us to better prepare for and respond to pandemics as well, which decreases the risk. But there is another reason we've placed such risks in the human originating category. In the 21st century, humans can do more than modify the course of an epidemic.